All right, let's dive into something a little unexpected today. We received some source material that, well, on the surface, just looked like an English textbook.
Yeah, exactly. Specifically, excerpts from My English 7th, published by the Sindh Textbook Board in Jamshoro, Pakistan, for 7th graders.
Right, and our listener who sent this over was curious, basically asking, okay, beyond the English lessons, what else is in here? What are these 12 and 13-year-olds really learning?
What's the cultural context? What values are being passed on alongside, say, verb conjugations?
Precisely. So that became our mission for this deep dive, to really unpack this textbook, look beyond the grammar, and see what interesting nuggets, what cultural insights are embedded in there.
And it turns out there's quite a lot more than just language instruction going on. It's pretty fascinating.
Okay, so let's get into it. What jumps out first?
Well, the sheer range of themes used to actually teach the English. These aren't like separate subjects crammed in. They're the context for the language learning itself.
Yeah, looking at the unit titles tells you a lot. You've got things like effects of our actions on the environment.
Unit 1, yeah. Then social etiquettes and manners.
Unit 2. Then awareness of crisis, accidents, and natural calamities.
Unit 3, awareness of and empathy with special people. That's Unit 4.
Historical and cultural places of Pakistan, Unit 5. Media as a source of knowledge in Unit 6.
And finally, Unit 7, learning organized approach through identifying, prioritizing, and following schedules.
That's a huge spread, isn't it? It's clearly about more than just communication skills.
Absolutely. It shows this deliberate effort to integrate language learning with, social awareness, civic responsibility, personal development. It's all woven together.
And this is where it gets really interesting, I think, how they embed specific values and almost life lessons within these units.
Mm-hmm.
So take Unit 1, the environment one. It uses a story about a boy, Ollie, and his friends campaigning against pollution.
Right. And it's quite detailed. They mention a van driver honking loudly, the fumes making people cough.
Yeah, and the kids preparing handbills, making a list of things to do. It's very action-oriented. It's teaching environmental responsibility, but also collective action.
Definitely. Then you get to Unit 2, social etiquettes and manners. And they use this format called Ask Big Brother. It's like an advice column.
That was fascinating. Students write in with, like, real social problems they're facing.
And Big Brother gives pretty direct advice.
Very direct. Like Zane, whose grandparents think he's ill-mannered, the advice. Greet them warmly, help carry their things, spend time with them.
And crucially, be kind and polite even when the grandparents are irritated. That's quite specific guidance.
It is. Or Asan, who gets teased by friends for giving up his seat on the bus.
Yeah, and the advice isn't just be polite. It's framing it as feeling honored to serve others. It emphasizes that good manners mean offering seats and tells him not to stop doing good just because someone mocks him. That's resilience building.
Totally. Then there's Fahad, who avoids family meals because he gets scolded for table manners.
And Big Brother tells him he's actually lucky to have family guiding him. And then list specific manners. Let others go first, wait your turn, mouth closed while eating, no burping or lip smacking. Very practical.
Very. And it even touches on conflict. Rashid has a friend who always disagrees.
Right. The advice there is about respecting different views because society is diverse. Different beliefs, cultures, races, traditions, all of it.
And the key takeaway, learn to listen. And sometimes you have to kind of lose an argument to keep a friendship. That's deep for 12-year-olds.
It really is. And then there's Sonia, who feels bad about having a darker complexion.
Yeah, and the response tackles that head on. Skin color, physical appearance, they don't matter. What does matter is cleanliness, good behavior, combed hair, clean clothes.
And it weaves in broader moral points, too. Forgive, respect others, help people. Don't gossip or make fun of anyone. It's striking how explicit these social and moral lessons are.
Okay, so moving beyond social stuff, Unit 3 is about crisis awareness, floods, accidents.
Yes, and it features this really powerful story about Zubair, a boy who survives a flood. He clings to a log, his mother's hand slips away. It's quite intense.
Wow. And then what happens?
Well, he ends up in a release camp, but instead of just, being a victim, he decides to help others. He starts sharing safety tips he learned.
Practical things.
Yeah, like warning people not to go near fallen power lines, using a stick to test the ground before stepping, only carrying essential items when evacuating. It teaches resilience and proactive helping.
That's impressive.
Mm.
Then Unit 4, empathy for special people. How do they approach that?
Through a poem, The Blind Boy, he tries to capture his perspective like he doesn't understand light but feels the sun's warmth. He makes his own day and night in his mind.
Huh.
He says he bears his loss patiently, even feels like a king in his own world, and tells others not to pity him.
And the textbook follows up on that.
Yeah, with questions asking, how should we treat people with disabilities? How can we specifically help blind people? So he uses the literature to spark empathy and reflection.
Okay, and then there's Unit 7 about planning and organization, but it uses a play about a wedding.
That's right, Rafia wedding. The setup is Jawad's father breaks his leg right before his daughter Rafia's wedding. Big problem.
Uh-oh.
So a friend, Hassan, steps up to help organize everything. The family initially hesitates, but then they all work together, budgeting, figuring out food like slaughtering a cow,
Right.
the mother and sister making halwa.
A traditional sweet, right.
Exactly. But the key thing is, it's not just the family and friend. The entire village pitches in, lending things like charpoys, those traditional woven beds and bed sheets for all the guests.
Wow, real community effort.
Totally. And the explicit theme stated is, a friend in need is a friend indeed. It really drives home that idea of community support in a very relatable cultural context.
So it's clear they're using these rich stories and scenarios, but how are they actually teaching the English language mechanics alongside this? What are the sort of pedagogical methods?
Well, it's quite varied. They don't just rely on one thing. You've got different reading formats, as we've seen stories, poems, the advice column.
Right, and you mentioned newspaper excerpts and historical texts, too.
Exactly. And then there's a big focus on interactive activities. For speaking practice, they have dialogues built around expressing surprise or pleasure or displeasure. They do interviews about what people can or can't do, lots of pair work and group discussions.
Role-playing, too, you said.
Yeah, things like designing a robot program or acting out dialogues from the units. They try to make it active.
What about writing?
They build it up. They introduce pre-writing strategies first, like brainstorming or mind mapping, ways to organize your thoughts before writing.
That's useful.
Very. Then they move to writing paragraphs and essays, focusing on structure and editing. And they practice informal writing, like letters or emails, often connected to those problem solution themes.
And study skills, like how to learn better.
Things like how to use a dictionary effectively, how to read a table of contents, understanding what a blurb on a book cover is for.
Okay.
They also use closed passages, those exercises where you fill in missing words. It's good for checking grammar and vocabulary in context.
Right, I remember those.
But one of the most surprising techniques I saw was in Unit 1's study skills section. It's called free writing.
Free writing? What's that?
The instruction is basically write nonstop for 5 minutes every day on any topic. Don't worry about mistakes, just keep writing.
Okay.
And here's the interesting part. If you get stuck because you don't know an English word, write the word in your other language, Urdu, Sindhi, whatever, and then find the English word later.
Whoa, that's actually really flexible. It acknowledges the bilingual reality for many learners.
Exactly. It prioritizes fluency and getting ideas down over immediate perfection. It's quite a modern approach, really.
That is fascinating. So beyond the methods, what specific grammar or language points are covered? Are they tied to the themes?
Yes, very much so. They integrate grammar naturally. You'll see exercises on possessive pronouns related to characters in the stories, or countable, uncountable nouns when talking about food or pollution.
Makes sense.
Articles a, and, with specific rules taught using examples from the texts. Reflexive pronouns, conditional sentences, if-then, linking words like but and.
Standard stuff, but contextualized.
Right. Forming adjectives, question words. The present perfect tense using since and for, often linked to historical events perhaps. Direct and indirect speech, especially for requests and orders, which fits the manners theme. Adverbs, active and passive voice. It's all grounded in the unit topics.
Okay, let's pull on a few more of those really specific, vivid details from the text that kind of stick with you. You mentioned the historical unit.
Right, Unit 5, it talks about the Bambor ruins and finding a mosque there from 727 AD. That's very specific.
Yeah, and Mohenjo-Daro.
Highlighted for its planned layout and really advanced drainage system, especially for its time. And the idea that Taxila might have had one of the earliest universities in the world.
That's intriguing. And the description of Takhti Bahi.
Yeah, the Tantric Buddhist monastery. They mention these small, dark meditation cells with low openings. It paints a picture.
It does. And going back to the advice column.
Oh yeah, ask Big Brother. The bluntness of some problems and the very direct advice really stand out. It gives you a snapshot of social pressures.
And Zubair, the flood survivor you mentioned, he dreams of his mother.
Yes, that detail about his emotional struggle in the relief camp adds a very human layer to the disaster awareness theme.
The blind boy finding contentment, that's powerful too.
Definitely. A direct challenge to pity.
And connecting learning to cultural figures, like naming rooms at a children's lit fest after Arfa Karim.
Right. She was a young Pakistani computer prodigy. It links achievement and literature in a contemporary way.
And finally, that wedding scene with neighbors lending actual charpoys and bed sheets.
It's just such a concrete image of community cooperation. These details make the lessons feel much more real and culturally grounded.
So, when we step back and look at all this from these textbook excerpts, what's the big picture? What does this deep dive really tell us?
Well, it tells us this is far more than just an English textbook. It's using language instruction as a vehicle, really, to instill a whole set of values, like community responsibility, social etiquette, resilience in crisis, empathy, historical pride, environmental awareness. It's all in there.
Absolutely. It feels like a window into the kind of citizen and person that the curriculum aims to nurture in Pakistan. Alongside teaching English, the educational goals seem much broader than just academics.
Yeah, there's a clear intent to teach kids how to be part of a community, how to navigate social interactions, how to cope with hardship, respect others, appreciate their heritage, all integrated with language skills.
Which really leaves you with something to think about, doesn't it? What does it tell us about an education system, or maybe even a society, when teaching a language is so fundamentally tied up with teaching manners, community help, history, environmentalism?
Right. And perhaps what can other places, other education systems learn from this kind of integrated approach, where language isn't just a subject, but a tool for shaping well-rounded individuals?